Hello, hello, good evening. It's Monica from Life is Art, and it's Wednesday. Let's create. Now, I am just grabbing the link to the video so I can pop it onto my Facebook group because the YouTube wasn't giving me the link before I started. Usually it does. Always a challenge, I gotta say. So there we go. The link is now posted in the Facebook group. So for those who are hoping to find it there, hopefully they'll find it and jump on in. If you're joining me live, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. And if you're watching later on replay, you can say replay and leave a comment. Hi, Ina. I see that you're watching, and Heather is here too. Good evening. Good evening. We are going to be creating today, and we're going to be doing something that I've called Pop It. And it's a method of adding any sort of pop-up element that you want onto the inside of your card. And we're going to be using some things from the September to December mini catalog. We're going to be using the Reindeer Days collection, some of the designer series paper from this one. We're also from the annual catalog, we're going to be using the Country Woods specialty paper. And we're also going to be using the, it'll be quicker for me to find it by looking in here. On page 56, we're going to be using, I'm sure this is dog-eared by now, we're going to be using the Yuletide Village stamp set. And we're also going to be using the Peaceful Season stamp set, and that is on page 25. I was right there. And there we go. So we're going to be using the Peaceful Season, which has lovely sentiments on there. And I've been using this one over and over and over again. This is one of those stamp sets that's so useful because it has so many gorgeous sayings and sentiments for the season. And so, but the technique that I'm going to be teaching, hey Lynn, and Mom's here too, good evening. The technique I'm going to be showing you is one that you can use for anything to make it pop, and it's super simple. So let's get started, and we're actually going to start by decorating the front of our card, which seems a little odd, but it's true. We're going to be doing that. And I'm going to start out with a piece of the Country Woods collection, and this has the pool party colored paint that's all chippy and flaky from the Country Woods collection. I've said so many names now that my brain has gone on hiatus. And this has been cut to a 4-inch square. Then one of the coordinating colors that works with both the Reindeer Days and the Country Woods is the early Espresso, which is a lovely dark brown color. And this has been cut to 4 1/8 inch square. And I'm going to go ahead and stick those two pieces together. If I can get the backing off my adhesive. There we go. So there's going to be just a little border of that early Espresso going all the way around. And then let's bring in our card base. It's just a standard size card base that ends up being 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So you start out with an 8 1/2 by 5 1/2 piece of white cardstock and score it at the 4 1/4 line. Fold it in half. We're going to be making this on the portrait, and so this piece is just going to touch on there like that. I want my wood grain going sideways, so I've got it running that way. Look at this. I got myself somewhat prepared and added adhesive on some of these things. And then we're just going to go ahead and center that at the top of the card. Now you might say to yourself, this is an interesting process that Monica's doing, because usually if there's a mechanism involved, we do that first. But I need to do some stamping on the front of my card, and it's going to be a lot simpler to do that if my card is nice and flat like this. But I needed to know what space I had to stamp in, so that's why we started out adding the cardstock and the designer series paper. So now in this area down here, from the Peaceful Season stamp set, I'm going to be using the large Christmas, and I'm also going to be using the little Mary here. So I'm going to stamp the Christmas first, and I'm going to be using Real Red to do that. That is one of the coordinating colors with the Reindeer Days stamp collection suite. I guess that's the technical term. And I've got it loaded up on a big block here. You may notice, though, that I have my sentiment up towards the top of the block. That way, hopefully, I won't get any ink on here and it won't transfer to my card. So we're just going to ink that up. Make sure that we get good coverage, because this is a one and done kind of stamping. That looks good. And I'm going to move this down towards the bottom and center it, and then stamp it on down, give the ink a chance to transfer, and there we go. Then we're going to come in with the word Mary, which is a much smaller word, a little bit easier to make sure we got inked. And we're going to stamp the word Mary using some early espresso. So we're bringing that espresso down up here, and I'm going to try and center it and put it right above the word Christmas, and there we go. I'm not 100% happy with how I stamped that Christmas. I think I just slightly touched and shifted, because I have a tiny little bit of a halo-y thing happening, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. Now, from the designer series paper for Reindeer Days, there is a sheet of paper that has this gorgeous pool party background, and it's got all these little deer that are doing all sorts of fun things. And this one I thought was super sweet, because the little deer's putting a little arm on the snow deer. And I thought that was super cute, and it made a nice little vignette. I added on a little bit of early espresso. So the designer series paper was cut to 3 inches by 2.5. And then the early espresso is 3 1/8 by 2 5/8. And I've just layered it up. And then I'm going to bring in a piece of Pecan Pie, which is also coordinating with this, because isn't that just the right color for those little reindeer? And I've left a little bit more border on this one. So this one has been cut to 3 3/8 by 2 7/8. So it leaves a nice little edge of that pecan pie on there. So let's go ahead and stick these two together, centering it hopefully on the pecan pie. Doesn't that just sound good? Early espresso and pecan pie. That sounds like a combination that's worth exploring. It's making me think I want coffee and pie. Then we're going to add some dimensionals on the back of this one. We're going to add a little bit of pop to the front of our card. And we're also going to add a little bit of pop to the inside of our card. Imagine that. So let's stick this all on, and then we will travel to the inside. Alrighty, so we're just going to go ahead and center that in here. And I love how it's just sort of a frame within a frame within a frame, and it's got a little bit of pop to it, and it just makes it look lovely. I like that the espresso and the pecan pie add a little bit of separation from the two different designer series paper that both are pool party. If you didn't have that, then this would just kind of disappear into there. But by adding those two mattings and then popping it, it really creates a bit of drama, I think. All right, moving to the inside of the card. You will notice first off that because I stamped with red ink on the front, there is a shadow of the stamped image coming through to the inside. We're going to solve that really quickly by simply adding some more designer series paper. So I have this beautiful string of Christmas lights with the garden green background, and we're just going to add these on here. These are 4.25 ish. It's a hair less than 4.25 to accommodate for the crease line in the center, and it's 1 inch high. And that's just going to provide a nice little dab of color in here, but it's also going to hide the little shadow that's created when you use a really strong ink on the front. The other solution to that would be to stamp your sentiment on a second piece of paper, and I've put that on crooked, lovely me. Stamp it on a second piece of paper and then stick it on the front, and then you wouldn't have that shadowing. But I think this is a fun way of dealing with it because you've just added some lovely festive color to the inside of your card. Okay, now I'm going to set this aside because we have some jobs to do here. We're going to start out with a piece of cardstock. This is basic white, and it's been cut to 6 inches by 2 3/4. And that's a nice scale for what we're doing, but you could adjust this depending on what we do next, okay? But I want to grab a piece of scrap paper because we're going to do just a little bit of inking on this. And I'm going to grab my Pool Party Stampin' Spot and my little blending brush here. And something to keep my Stampin' Spot from running away. So we've got Pool Party. Remember, that's been coming up quite a bit in our project so far. And what we're going to do is we're going to just gently use, just making sure I've got a bit of pink here. I don't want that to get onto my project. We're going to use this Pool Party to add just a little bit of ink blended goodness to this piece of paper. And I don't even have to go all the way to the bottom, but I'm kind of going to create a little snowy background for a little scene that I'm going to create. And so we're going to just ink our way around. And you can add as much or as little ink as you want. That's one thing I really like about the blending brushes, is that it kind of gives you the ability to control how much ink is going on there. It's not just all of a sudden there's oodles of ink. You put it on in layers. I'm going to add just a little bit more to this side, like so. Lovely. Okay, now while we've still got this here, I'm going to add from the stamp set that we're using, the Yuletide Village, remember from the catalog? I'm going to grab this one that looks like a little snow flurry. So we're just going to peel that off the carrier sheet. Get ourselves a stamping block. And then I'm going to come in, we're going to do tone on tone, just with the Pool Party. And we're going to add some snow, some little snow flurries to our little piece of cardstock. And you can just twist it this way and that way. I don't have to cover everything. So you might notice that I'm not going all the way to the bottom, and that's okay. If it overlaps a little bit when I'm stamping, that's okay too. Get a little here, and a little there. All right, that looks good. So we've created a nice little background that's very similar to the backgrounds that we've got going on here, right? We've added that little bit of Pool Party. We've added some snowy stamping, and I think that looks super cute. So now we need to do just a little bit of scoring on here. So let me grab my Simply Scored. We're going to take this piece, make sure I'm in the frame here, and going along the 6-inch side, we're going to score it at 3 inches, just like that, 3 inches. And then we're going to turn it, and I'm going to call this my bottom, where I've sort of not inked. And we're going to score 1/4 of an inch. Whoops, I wandered. Kind of working backwards here. So 1/4 of an inch all the way across. Try and stay in the track. Still getting used to using a scoreboard. I'm used to using my ruler. There we go. Okay. So now with this piece, we're going to first score or crease down our score line that's in the center, and we're going to create a mountain fold, which means we push the score line up the mountain from behind. We're going to make sure everything lines up and then give it a good crease like that. And then we're going to create a mountain fold with our 1/4 inch score line too. So I'm actually going to flip it to the back and then lift up like so. So we're folding it to the back. All right. So we've creased it in the center vertically, and then our 1/4 inch tab has now been folded to the back. Now on this tab, we need to do a little bit of trimming. So what we're going to do is we're going to come to the end, and we're just going to trim off a little triangle, just like that, just to that score line, the 1/4 of an inch score line. We'll come to the other side. We'll do the same thing. We're going to cut a little triangle off like that. We're kind of mitering the corners. Then in the center, we can snip just on that center score line to where it intersects with the horizontal one. And then we'll cut these little triangles out as well. So when you're done, you should have 2 little 1/4 inch tabs with little mitered corners. Okay? Easy peasy. Then if we bring in our other cardstock that we're going to use, we're going to use some basic white that's been cut 3 inches wide. It doesn't really matter how tall they are. It needs to work. They're about 3 inches tall, maybe a hair less. We're going to do some stamping on these. And for this stamping, we're going to need a couple things. We're going to need a sticky note. We're going to need our stamps. And we're going to need some ink. So we've got our Memento ink, Tuxedo Black. We've got our sticky notes, and we have our stamps. Let's put some of these stamps onto blocks. And the first one I want is, let me see, I want this single house right here. We're going to line it up on our block, scooch that to the side. We're going to take one of our 3-inch squares, and we're going to stamp this little house off to the left side, but not right at the bottom. We're going to leave a little bit of the white at the bottom. So maybe right about there. We're just going to stamp that directly on there. Now the second thing I want to do is I want to take my pad of sticky notes, and I'm going to stamp this same house onto my sticky notes, but I'm going to do it up at the top where the sticky bit is. Just like that. Okay. And what I'm going to create with this, let me close this before I stick something in it that shouldn't be in it. We're going to create a mask for our little house that we just stamped onto our cardstock. And to do that, we need to trim out this little house. Now, it doesn't matter if there's any paper down here. What we're looking for is to trim right on the line, or just on the very right-hand side of the line. I don't want any of my background sticky note color showing to the right of my stamped image line. So I'm going to trim right along it. This is the one time where you don't leave a halo, one of the few times when you're fussy cutting. I'm going to get rid of some of this excess sticky note. And I'm going to trim. So you're learning some pop-up technique today, and you're also learning some masking. Okay, and we really only need the right side of our house fussy cut, so that's good for any of you who don't really like fussy cutting. Oh, the chat says it's disconnected. Oh, no, it's successfully connected again. Okay, so if you're trying to chat, it'll come up. Then I'm going to take this mask and I'm going to place it directly on top of the stamped image on my cardstock so that it lines right up. And what that means is that I can then take my next stamp, which I'm going to use the two houses that are together. Sorry, I realize I'm off the screen here, but I'm just grabbing a stamp. And, oops, there's something stuck to that. There we go. Sticky. So this is the stamp that has the two houses together. Now, if I tried to stamp this house right beside this house has little bits that stick out. So if I tried to stamp that, I would end up with those little bits conflicting. But because I have masked this one, I can then come in and stamp these other two houses. And I can stamp them right side by side with that one, like so. And I might have actually gone a little too far over with my first one, but that's okay. You're getting the idea. And then when I remove my mask, you can see that now there's no conflict. The lines aren't one on top of the other. Now, I went too far that direction. So I'm going to do what the magic of Facebook allows me to do. And I'm going to stamp this, I'm going to stamp it again. And because I have my mask made, I can totally do this, which is also a reason why you can make multiple cards using the same mask. So let's stamp that again. I've moved a little closer to the edge. Put my mask on. There we go. And then let's try doing this again, and hopefully we'll be a little centered. Yep, now we're getting everything on. And there we go. So now you can see that by masking that first house, we can go ahead and stamp those other houses, and it looks like they just kind of all flow together. How cool is that? Now let's grab our other one, and we're going to do some stamping on this one as well. We're going to grab the church, like so, and our stamp block. We're going to stamp this on here, right about there. And then we're going to grab ourselves a sticky note, and we're going to stamp it again. But I'm just going to kind of move it up here because I really only need part of it. But we want it up near the sticky part. And what I want to trim off here is the right side. Seems like we're always going to the right side on this. I want the right side of the church, but I also want this slope of the snow. So I'm going to kind of extend the slope of the snow to the edge and then trim around the end of the church, if I can. The only problem with this is the sticky note wants to stick to my scissors. There we go. So we've just got the end of that church and our little slope of the snow. We can go ahead and line that up here like that. And then on this stamp set, we also have a little evergreen tree all by itself. Let's grab that and a stamp block. And because we have this little slope of snow created and we've got the edge of our church, we can stamp right over top of that. See how now if we hadn't made that mask, our tree would be kind of stamped right over top of the church, and the line of the church would be in the middle of the tree. That's not what we want. We want our tree to be in behind the church and kind of in behind the slope of snow. So that's what we've created just by masking. Now we need to do a little bit of coloring on this. So let me move that out of the way, tidy up my stuff. Got things all over the place. And let's grab some colors that will work with what we're doing here. So I want some dark real red. I want some granny apple green. We're going to use light and dark. And we're going to use some light and dark pecan pie as well. And you know me, when I do coloring, I try to keep my colors in a family of colors so that we don't have colors coming at you. We want to keep them kind of simple. So let's start with the dark pecan pie. We'll just scooch those off to the side for a minute. Just give ourselves a little test there. And then we're going to go ahead and add some pecan pie to the roof of our church and this angled part of the steeple. There we go. And then also the trim across here. Ooh, there's some loud noises in my house. Something's moving down in the basement. Hopefully you're not hearing that on the video. I don't know what that was. That was loud. And then we'll come all the way across. And I'm just using the very tip of the brush end of the marker. And we're also going to do here where the shingled part would be. Of course, there's some nice frosty snow on the roof there. Let's also do our windowsills and then the front door. We're going to make this a white church, so it's camouflaging with the snowy scene around it. And it also means less coloring. Woohoo! It's a win-win. And then let's also add some green to our evergreens. This is the dark granny apple green. I'm pretty sure it's the dark one. Yep. And so let's add some green. When you're coloring things that are tiny like this, the brush tip and the very tip of it is perfect. Let's even add some green to our wreath all the way around. I usually get all the way done and then realize I've not colored the wreath. I'm having difficulty. I'm looking up and down with my bifocals here because I'm a little bit far from my face. Who else has the joy of bifocals? They're kind of new for me, and so I'm getting there. I'm getting accustomed to them, and they do really help with the fussy cutting and the coloring as long as you're in the right spot. And usually that means bringing things a little closer to you. So let's go ahead and finish up this tree. And I like how there's little sort of drifts of white snow gracing the branches. I think it looks super cute and yeah, just makes it look super cute. So there's our little church all done. Oh, except for the bow on the wreath. Let's grab some of our real red, and it's basically just a couple little dots there. Since we've got the red going, let's bring this on over. And on our little house here, we're going to add, let me see, which house do I want to do? Yeah, let's do this house. Let's add some red here. So we're going to add some red to the chimney. And then just the flashing or the eavesdropping maybe on the house. Who wouldn't want to have red flashing and eavesdropping on their house? The little sills. The rest of the house is going to be left white. This particular house anyway. There we go. And then let's paint the door red, or color the door red. If it was a real door, we'd be painting it. There we go. Oh, and the edge of here, let's make it all matchy-matchy. Makes me think of peppermint striped candies right now. All right, so that's our first house. And then our house in the center, let's make this a greenhouse, but let's start with the light granny apple green. And you may think it's weird that I keep testing my markers up here, but don't worry, that paper is not going to be in the finished product. So don't panic, it's all good. Let's add some light green, and this time we're actually going to color the side of the house. And you kind of want to work in little sections here so that you get your marker blended. You don't end up with weird streaky bits. At least that's the intent. And we'll just kind of work our way around, going area by area. Oops, I went right onto the door. That's okay, we're going to color the door green. It's just going to be the darker one. And around our last window. Now, I'm not doing any shading on here per se. Sometimes I do, but in this case I'm not. I'm going to bring in the dark granny apple green just to add a few details. So again, we're going to come in with the flashing, the top of the chimney, our little windowsills. There we go. And our door. Because I said I was going to color it green, didn't I? I think these houses are just so cute. I have made so many things with them already. They're super fun. Let's add a little bit of red on the little bow on the door. Just a few little dots of red. I could have left it white, but why not? Let's add some red. All right, so we're going to come in with the light pecan pie now. And let's add some color to our last house. Whoops. Spinning around. Let's do our chimney. And then on the front of our house. So you can totally leave some of these mostly uncolored, just adding a bit of color here and there, or you can color them right in. You can add shadows, because we've done that before, to give it even more dimension. You can even leave them just black and white. You totally could do that. All right. Let's get this last little bit colored, and then we'll add some dark pecan pie on the details. So the top of our chimney, along here. We can even add a little bit for the roof where the shingles are showing. There we go. And this one has shutters on the windows, so we can add those. And next, can you guess what's going to happen next? Let me know in the comments. What do you think we're going to do as our next step in this process? I'll give you a hint. It's one of my favorite things. Does that help? It involves these. Why, yes. Yes, we are. We're totally going to fussy cut. Now we're going to envision the slope of our snow here. And then we're going to leave a halo around our image. So we're just going to pivot our paper as we fussy cut. Like so. Let's trim off to the edge. All the way around. If you're leaving comments, I apologize. I can't see anything coming up right now. So if you said something that I didn't respond to, I will see them later though. but I know there was an issue a little while ago because it said that the comments were disconnected or the chat was disconnected, but it's back on, so we shall see. So we're just going to work our way all the way around our little church here, and then we're going to work our way around the houses, and then we will get to making this pop mechanism. We just first had to make the thing that we were going to make pop. And there we go. And this pop mechanism, when you see it, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, that's so simple. And it is, and it can totally be used for any stamped image, any die cuts, any ephemera, any photos, you name it. This is even something you could put in a mini album to make something pop up. The only real rule about it is that it has to fit within the bounds of whatever you're closing. So in this case, it has to fit inside of our card and not dangle over the edge. That's it. That's the only rule. I like things that have not a lot of rules sometimes. We were talking today during We Craft Wednesdays, which is kind of, well, pretty much an all morning and most of the afternoon chat and craft that we do every Wednesday. And we were talking about board games, and some board games and card games and things have a lot of rules, and some are pretty simple, and sometimes it's the simple ones that are the most fun because you're not having to try and remember all the rules. It's kind of like how I don't mind playing checkers, but chess is just got a lot of rules, and I don't remember, how do you move each thing and what you can and can't do. And so I'm not really any good at chess. I've only played a few times. And but checkers, checkers was kind of one of those things you'd always learn as a kid, right? And so I still know how to play checkers. All right. So we've got those cute little scenes. And then we have our cute little insert. Remember way back when we made that? And so what we're going to do is we're going to add our cute little scene onto here. And I'm just trying to decide if I want to put them on flat or I want to put them on with foam tape. And when I did it before, I put it on with foam tape, but it adds a lot of bulk. So maybe I'll do this one flat. Will I? Yeah, we'll just do it flat. So let me grab my adhesive. And you can see there the back side where we've done it twice. So we're just going to add some adhesive on there. That was our previous stamping before I decided to fix it. Now you want to just kind of stay left of that score line there. And then let's add this one on. Now, as I said, the one I did previously, I added foam tape in behind, so you could totally do that. The one I did previously, I also somehow must have had a slightly different size because this was not sticking up above on the other one. I'll show it to you here once we get this one going. But that's totally fine. It can totally be like that. But one thing I also want to do on this is I want to round these top two corners. Now, you know me, if you've watched me do videos, I just round my corners by hand. Corner rounders and I have never really gotten along. So all I do is I start with my scissors completely parallel to the side I'm starting on, and then I just roll my paper around until my scissors are completely parallel again. And that always seems to make decent looking corners. Now our two tabs that are here, we want to go ahead and add some adhesive to this. And you could use that red tape for this, or whatever kind of super sticky tape. But it doesn't have to be. I'm just using my regular adhesive. Tape runner might not be quite enough for this, but it's probably okay. It's basically the same stuff. It's a double-sided tape. And we're going to peel off our backings. There we go. And then we're going to bring in our card base. All right. We're going to open it up. And we know that our bottom is down here because that's where we put our pattern. And what we're going to do is we're going to fold this in half. I want my church to be on this side and my houses to be on this side. So we're going to fold it in half, and I'm going to stick it down to this side. So it's the side with the church. And I'm going to have my adhesive tabs pointing towards the top of my card. So my little church and my little houses are going to look like they're upside down. Don't panic. The world has not gone upside down. It's not going to turn out wrong. But what you want to do, remember we created this little mitered corner here. Now mine isn't very precise because they're both different. Let's make them the same. Let's just go ahead and trim them the same. We've got our little mitered corner here, and this is the center in between the church and the houses. We've got our church on this side, our houses are facing up, and our sticky bits are at the top, houses upside down. And we're just going to take this intersection here between our vertical score line and our horizontal score line, and we're going to make sure that that score line is right on the center score line of our card. And you see how this whole panel is kind of on an angle. Now I don't need to line it up with the mitered corner. The mitered corner is not going to be what we're measuring. It's just that intersection between the two score lines has to touch the score line in our card. And then we're going to lay it down, okay? And it's going to be on this weird cockeyed angle. Don't worry about that. You're just going to lay it down, and you're going to put your hand there to hold it. And you made sure that you've lined right up here. We haven't pushed anything down, so if it's not quite right, you can adjust it. But now what we're going to do is we're going to take our card and we're going to just close it. And we're not going to see what's happening. It's out of sight, out of mind, and we're going to give it a little squish. And then we can even turn it to the other side and give it a little bit of squish. And then the moment of truth, we're going to take our card and we're going to add a little bling on the front. We're going to make you wait and see. Oh, the suspense is building. I have the adhesive-backed sparkle gems, and I'm going to use some of these. The rain is pouring down outside my window. It's like hitting the window like crazy. And we're going to use some of the gold ones here. Let's grab a gold, a little sparkly. And let me see. Let's add a little sparkle there. And then we've got the other size here. We can add a little sparkle there. And let's add one over here, over his other shoulder. Just to add some glitz and glam to the front of our card. And so there we have our little reindeers. We started with our basic white cardstock for our base. We added on our early espresso and our pool party, flaky painted, country woods. Then we added a foam dimensionals behind with some pecan pie and some early espresso, and then this lovely designer series paper from the Reindeer Days. We've added some bling. We've done some stamping with the Peaceful Season stamp set. And then, will it be successful? We have popped it. And let me just, it didn't stick all the way. It's popping just fine. It's just the adhesive needs to stick a little more. It's because I have that foam. And there we go. We have our popped up little village on the inside of our card that we created. And you can totally put anything you want. And all you have to do is crease it in the middle, crease a little tab at the bottom, miter the bits, and stick it down upside down on a weird angle that's totally kind of throws you for a loop. And it will pop up and create a nice little scene. So if you have your card that you give to somebody, you can have it displayed open like this, or you can display the front. It still works as a card that you just stand up and display the front. But isn't that super fun to have that little pop-up? And it works for anything, as long as it fits inside of your card. You can totally pop it. Super simple. Now, let's do a little stamping in here. I probably should have done that before I put so many things on. But one more final stamp that I want to add from the peaceful season is the love from our home to yours. Now, this stamp set is really nice because it has two versions of that. It's got love from our home to yours or love from my home to yours. So depending on your situation, whether you want to say our or my, it totally works. And we're going to stamp this in the early espresso again. And I think that this sentiment also helps to make the fact that we've got a little village going on inside of our card make a little bit more sense, right? Because the front of our card totally had some reindeer out in the forest. And then all of a sudden we open it up and there's a whole village. So, you know, it takes a village. So let's stamp that. Love from our home to yours. Nice and crooked on there. And, because I probably should have done it before I put the pop-up in. But there we go. I think that is super cute. So on the inside, we used our basic white first to do some inking with the pool party, then stamping all the little snow. Then we stamped and masked our little village houses so we could cluster them all together and add in the little tree. And then we rounded our corners, adhered it to the inside of our card, and of course adding a little bit of extra festive color down there, which totally works with all that lovely green and red on our houses to hide the shadow from the stamping on the front. Love from our home to yours. Lots of space to write a message in here still. And I think that is super fun. And now, can you think of things that you totally want to pop up inside of a card? I bet you can. And you can make it pop. So simple, so easy. All you need to do is fold it in half and put a tab on the bottom. And there you have it. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing that Pop It card come together. And if you feel excited and want to create one of your own, be sure to snap a photo of it and pop it in the comments when I post the photos of my card. Then we can all see and be inspired by your card as well. I see Samantha's watching and Lynn. Hello, hello. So glad you could join us. And I will see you again soon. All right. Toodaloo. Have a great night. Bye.